Welcome, everybody. I'm Nerd. Today we're gonna go into the Cathayan roster because today all the roster was revealed, what they're gonna have, the lores and everything. So we're just gonna talk about that. I'm gonna skip a lot of the lore about them and just go into like what kind of units there are. And yeah, that's basically what we're gonna do. Maybe how we're gonna be using them in the field and stuff. This is my cat, James. Hello, James. We're not going to have a camera on for this one, but at least you got introduced to the cat. So let's check him out, shall we? First off, we go into the Cathayan lords, shall we? The legendary lords. First, we have Maoying, Storm Dragon. Not much is really known about her, except that she's going to have a unique selection of spells on lords of Yin and Life. And all enemies who try to combat Maoying will find themselves at a significant disadvantage. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, maybe she'll have some fancy skills over on minus melee defense or melee morale, minus armor, some form of stat debuff for enemies in the same region. So when you start the actual battle, the enemy will be at a disadvantage. That could be pretty cool. She can also turn into a dragon at will. So hybrid lord, cool debuffs. Second off, Xiaoming, the Iron Dragon. Once again, can turn into a dragon or a human at will. He will have a unique selection of spells from lore Yang and Metal. The other one had Ying. This one has Yang. Also has Warding Iron. The Iron Dragon's near invulnerability can be passed on to his nearby troops for a short bit. So we can safely assume that he will indeed be able to buff units around him, right? So what kind of playstyle can we expect from this dude? Well, very likely just a tough dude going in, having some spells. Both of these seem to be hybrid lords, but when they can become a dragon, they're going to have some pretty good melee as well. It's like Manfred, right? You don't need to go into his melee line or anything like that. He's not a dragon. The dragon in itself is really good. So it's all going to hang on to like what kind of animations they have. If these dragons will have the same as the Codal, very likely they'll suck and they'll just be able to like be transported with that, unless they fix that. But we'll just have to see, won't we? If you're not using one of the Dragon Lords, though, and if you're not going with one of the Legendary Lords, you will have access to two other types of Lords, which will be the Dragon-Blooded Shugengen Lords. Now, according to the text, these dudes seem to be kind of hybrids, like a Vampire Lord. They will have access to two different magic schools, which will be either Yin or Yang. Yang is about buffing your allies, disrupting your enemies so it also wins. If that's going to be like the lore of stealth, kind of pillar of darkness or whatever it's called. That's mainly for multiplayer, so I mean, if you're mostly playing single player, maybe you'll not use that one as much. But they can also do explosions and shit like that, so it's probably going to be pretty cool. They have Jade Shield, Dragon Breath, Wall of Wind and Fire, Stone Grandstands, Might of Heaven and Earth, Constellation of the Dragon. We'll see what these spells actually do in the Yang school. They also have access to Yin. That's more about reflecting projectiles, summoning ghosts, which is probably going to be the one I'm using first because that seems really, really cool. And that's Storm of Shadows, Cloak of Jets, Missile Mirror, Blossom Winds, Talisman Knights, and Ancestral Warriors. So what these spells actually do? No idea. These are the names of the spells that they provide us with in the blog, right? And they'll have access to either war horses or a Jade Longma. Longmas are Chinese dragon horses, basically the flying cavalry we saw in the previous trailer. If you're not using the Dragon-Blooded, you will have access to the Lord Magistrate as well. These seem to be strategists, focusing on buffing the units. It says they're expert commanders, inspiring and directing their troops with the skills and efficiency that comes only from years of experience in real battle. And that they're supposed to be capable of holding their own in melee combat as well. So, sounds interesting. They'll also have access to a Warhorse or a Sky Lantern. So the Sky Lanterns seem pretty cool as well, because then you can actually, direct everybody from there, and you can shoot people over walls and get behind enemy lines to shoot them and stuff like that as well. So that's going to be cool to see. Now for the heroes. Either you can have the Alchemist, which has the lore of Yin and Yang. Very likely not at the same time. It does say that they gravitate to the Iron Dragon in the west. So very likely he will have some bonuses towards them. They also have potions imbued with spells of lower metal. They can also buff them up and give buffs to nearby units. So giving them bonuses to attack and armor. So that one goes. They have access to war horses. So basically wizards, I guess you can call them. Buffing wizards. Maybe a war priest. Then we have Astromasters, the actual sorcerers of Cathay. They have Lore of Heavens. Yeah, actually it just says that they have Lore of Heavens. That's it. They have Lore of Heavens, and they have a great affinity to that. So we'll see how that one actually goes. Is that actually what they're going to have? I mean, if they have really cheap, comets, wind blast, stuff like that, that's going to be cool. I'm not really complaining about that. That would be pretty dope, actually. I like Lore of Heaven. They do have access to war horses and Wuxing war compasses, which seems pretty cool. They also have, obviously, like normal troops, and some of those are peasant long spearmen. Seem pretty cool. They're just, normal low-tier spearmen without shields, it seems. Some cool stuff about them, though. They are yang aligned, so as long as you have a yin unit close by, they will have more leadership and melee defense. They're really good versus bracing, versus stuff charging, like cavalry, or just in the front line for things that are charging into them. And they're just, the basic chaff, basically, that you're going to guess. But as long as you keep them close to yin units, yeah, they might actually be good. I mean, it all depends on how much melee defense they have. This kind of units, it all depends on what their melee defense is, in my opinion. If they have very low, they're just going to die anyway. Right? If they're going to be at like 25 or something, if they're going to be like a 35 and get to 40, 45 or something like that with skills, bonuses, and the buffs from other stuff, they're going to be very good, and you're probably going to keep them for a long time. And then we have the Jade Warriors, which are apparently the more mid-tier ones. They come with sword and shields, halberds. They also have the defensive stance, making them immobile, but also much harder to kill. Better charge defense. And the longer they sit there, the better their charge resistance and armor gets. So that's actually pretty cool. Definitely a turtling playstyle, to say the very least. And the ones with halberds do not have shields, but they'll still be getting better charge defense and defenses for that. Then we have the Celestial Dragon Guard. Just like I said in the breakdown video, they wore gold, and therefore they're the highest tier, right? They're supposed to be the elite soldiers. They have halberds, which is always good. That gives you charge defense, gives you anti-large, gives you armor piercing. It's essentially all you can ever ask for in one of these dudes, except for, shields. Shields usually do live a little bit longer, but it doesn't seem like there is any anti-large and shielded unit here. So we'll just see how that one goes. If the lower tier ones, you just sit around, will get enough bonuses to counteract that. And the only minus they have is that they're, less of them, so very likely to have a couple of these in the back line, maybe to reinforce with their armor piercing and anti-large. Now, for the missile infantry. So the archers are yin aligned, right? So you can have them together with the yang. So if you guess peasants, I mean, it's the same picture still, but these dudes are going to have bows instead, okay? So you just imagine them having bows instead. Obviously, they just seem to be peasant archers from Bretonia, honestly, that gets bonuses from being close to yang units. We'll see what kind of bonuses they give. It just says that they're getting bonuses. So we will have to see what kind of bonuses they get. Hopefully it's range bonuses when being close to the yang unit. They'll also have Iron Hail Gunners. Close you can get to a shotgun, it seems. Now, that's kind of worrisome, though, always, because shotguns are kind of bad, honestly. If you actually check for the Vampire Codes, for example, with their Lord, that's bugs. It doesn't actually work, but nobody really cares about it because very few people use this. Somebody on Reddit made some math about it, and it's apparently just doesn't work, and that kind of is understandable if you try to use them. I tried to use them a couple of times, and it's hard to use them. I always just felt that maybe it's just not a unit for me, but them being bugs seems to be on point, honestly. But it is heavy armor piercing damage they're supposed to have. Short range, they are still yin aligned, right? So anything close to yang units, a little bit back in a checkboard pattern or something like that, it will probably work pretty well. They'll also have crane gunners, which is the mighty crane gunner, the ones I called dragon staffs, because that's what they were called in the Nagash books. Basically, one with a shield in front of them. And, you know, like a Skaven weapon team, basically, but with shield. So it's just range precision. Sounds just like Giselles, honestly. They will also have Jade Warrior Crossbowmen that we also talked about. We'll have crossbows and crossbows with shields. We also talked about that in the trailer breakdown. Shields, always incredibly good. It's basically just being quarrelers, isn't it? Have better armor, shields. I mean, if you ever used quarrelers, you know what you're going to get, right? A good ranged unit that's hard to deal with, basically. And that's what these dudes are going to be. After that, you're also going to have Celestial Dragon Crossbowmen. They're not going to have the highest range. I mean, the Crane Gunners are supposed to outrange them and outdamage them. But these dudes are hardier in, you know, in melee. They also have shields still. It says they're not a true hybrid. They just hold out for longer. So not really sure which one to compare it to. Maybe Lawton Sea Guards with less anti-large, I guess. It does also say that the Dragon crossbows are repeating powerhouses. So maybe they'll just shoot really, really fast. There are repeating crossbows in Three Kingdoms. That might be something they're taking in. Who knows? Now, let's talk about horses. They will have 3 different kinds of horses, right? Going to be peasant horsemen. Seemingly have vanguard deployments. Just disturb backlines. It's just going to be regular horses. You have Jade Lancers, which seems to be really good heavy cav. They'll have extra damage towards infantry, so I can just assume it's going to be a bonus for infantry. Shields, good armor. We'll see. Usually cavalry don't have good melee defense, so they die fairly easily, but we'll see how that one goes, right? It does also say that they're supposed to be way hardier than normal cavalry of that sort. So it looks cool. It's the unwinged one. And then we have the Longmaw, the winged horses. The great Longmaw riders, the dragon horses that we talked about, supposed to be just really fast, heavily armored, good charge bonus cavalry. So it looks really, really cool. Hopefully, they will actually be very, well, they'll survive a lot better as well. I really, really hope so. We'll have to see. But a flying squadron of horses, always good. Hippogriff Knights, my favorite unit in the game. Pegasus Knights, also okay, I guess. Well, they're probably going to be closer to the Pegasus Knights. Over to the War Machines. Yeah, the Terracotta Sentinel. How these will actually play out in the battlefield, we'll have to see. Hopefully they're just not one more Giants. But it does seem like it's just a giant, heavily armored tree-man with better range, I hope, because they have a staff. That's all I can really, really hope for. Doesn't seem to be fast. Some people said that it was sharing animations with some of the Three Kingdoms characters. We'll have to see about that one, honestly. It's really weird with stuff like that, because in most forms of Wushu, you kind of have the same movement patterns with a lot of things. And I have 2 black belts in 2 different types of kung fu's, and it kind of like bleeds over a little bit. It doesn't change super much with staff techniques and these kinds of weapons. A Guandu, right? So that's what I think it is, a double Guandu or something. But yeah, it just doesn't change that much. We'll have to see how it is if it's actually ripped off. But we did see a cool spin move, so let's see what that one does. We also had the Sky Lantern, the one that the Magistrates go on as well. And they're just going to have crane guns, which just shoot at everything, essentially. You know, they're going to be yin aligned. Apparently reveal stuff underneath, and they just keep on firing. What their actual stats will be, we'll see. Hopefully it's not a flying war wagon, but we'll have to see. It's still a little bit of a cool thing to just, you know, float over some city wall, just keep on blasting. It's kind of cool. Also, a fun thing to note, there's actually a vermilion bird, which burns endlessly inside the balloon. It's not just a normal balloon. No, it is indeed a sort of phoenix in there. Forever trapped, I guess. Or maybe it's just, you know, happy there. Who knows? After that, we have the Sky Junk, which is a warship in the air. So, you know, Thunderbird just went CA. They have great guns. They spew fire rain rockets, which I'm just going to assume is like a rocket battery for the Empire. But, you know, one at a time. Can drop bombs. Very slow. And once the ammo runs out, it's going to be close to useless. But seems to be really, really cool. If you manage to use all of that ammo, you're probably in a very good spot anyway. So we'll have to see how that one goes. But I think this one will be one of the centerpieces of a late game army, that's for sure. Also have the Grand Cannon. It does say that it has a flaming armor-piercing projectile. Makes short work of smaller foes placed in their path. But it also can topple monsters and city walls. Carried by oxen. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Either it's going to be like a Dwarven fire cannon, I'm guessing, or a normal cannon. I mean, like, we'll just have to see. It is forward-facing, so it's not a mortar. But I'm hoping more for a longer range fire cannon. That would be really, really cool, actually. So the fire rain rockets. Not that great of a range as the Great Cannon, but much better firepower. So I'm guessing the Great Cannon is just a humongous cannon then. Then if you place it close to Yang stuff, you get Yin Harmony, so it gets better reload speed. And I'm guessing this one will be like the Hellstone rocket battery. This is like that's the rockets, I guess, that I compare everything to. These things will have a pretty high crew, both of them, like high number of crew members, so they will be pretty hard to snipe away. You're probably going to have to go for the cannon piece straight away, which you can do, you know, with dragon breaths and stuff like that if you just place them right in front of them. And lastly, we had the Wuxin War Compass, which from what I can tell is essentially a Luminarch, but cooler. More anti-infantry, more anti-formation, so let's see what this one does. My personal guess, it's gonna shoot something with a firing arc that is close to the tier 5 high elf defense towers that you have on the settlements. And it'll also be a mounts for the wizards that we were talking about earlier. And that's it. That's everything. We didn't have pictures for every single variant. But it is looking cool. I mean, like, you can obviously see that it's a pretty basic one, right? You have a couple of war machines, and then you have 3 different tiers of ranged and 3 different tiers of infantry. A couple of monsters to fill it out. And then we'll have to see what it's like. But initial thoughts on this entire thing, like, it feels like it's gonna live or die with the magic, honestly. We'll have to see how this one goes. Like initially it feels like they're kind of having stuff not there to sell more DLC, which we know is something they do a lot. Maybe not cut it out, but maybe stuff isn't ready for it, so they're saving that for later. But we'll have to see, honestly. I think it's going to play out pretty well, but pretty basic as well. Like Skaven at release, like High Elves at release. I would say like Dark Elves at release, but they haven't really gotten anything that's really worthwhile from their DLC, have they? Same with Listerman. But they play kind of basic, it seems. So we're just going to have to wait for DLC for them to see them really shine, because I'm imagining you're going to have some berserking monkey men, better guns. They need war machines, I guess, like toys like the dwarves have, like some form of, I don't know, flamethrower man. What do you say? Maybe not copy the dwarves straight away, but we'll have to see, right? It's Cathay. They can do whatever they want to. Thank you guys for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the video, do leave a like. If you didn't, leave a like anyway. I mean, like, this is a pretty small channel, right? So I need all the likes I can guess. You can always find me on twitch.tv/NerdEdgeFred. I stream almost every single day, at least 5 to 6 times a week. So a lot of strategy games and stuff like that there as well. If you're gonna be buying Warhammer 3 or any other game, just you can always check out one of my links, support the channel. I appreciate that a ton. That's it. Thank you all for hanging out, and I'll see your cute faces next time.